I wish my adopted sister never came, they brought her home. She smiled like she belonged. Within weeks, she had my room, my friends, even my parents. Now they call her perfect, but I know who she really is. And I wish she never came. I was 9 when she arrived. Her name was Naomi. She was quiet, polite, with big brown eyes that always looked like she was about to cry, even when she smiled. My mom said she'd been through a lot, that we had to be patient with her, that this was her fresh start. I didn't ask what a lot meant. I just remember thinking it didn't seem fair that someone could show up out of nowhere and suddenly become family. But I was a kid, so I kept my mouth shut. The first few weeks were fine. We shared my room, which I hated, but I figured it was temporary. Naomi barely spoke above a whisper. She followed me around like a shadow, asking about my favorite shows, my school, my friends. At first I thought she was just curious, but then she started copying me. I'd wear my favorite red sweater. The next day, she'd ask Mom to buy her the same one. I'd talk about wanting to join the school newspaper. Suddenly, Naomi wanted to write too. I remember telling my mom once, "She's copying me." My mom just laughed. "She looks up to you. That's a good thing." But it didn't feel good. It felt invasive. Things escalated quickly. I didn't even notice when they started calling her sweetheart more than they called me that, or when my dad, who used to read me stories at night, started doing it in Naomi's bed instead. One night I asked if he could read to me again. He just said, "You're getting too old for that." That was the first night I cried under the blanket so no one would hear. She made friends fast. I thought it would take time, that kids at school would be hesitant with a new girl. But Naomi was charming in the sticky, sweet way that made teachers dote on her and classmates orbit around her. She told jokes that sounded rehearsed, gave compliments that felt fake. But people loved her. Even my best friend Mia started hanging out with her more than with me. When I asked Mia if she wanted to come over after school, she shrugged and said, "I think Naomi already invited me." I didn't say anything, just nodded. But something in me twisted. I remember the day I came home to find my posters taken down. Naomi was sitting on my bed, no, her bed now, with her legs tucked under her, flipping through my sketchbook. "I didn't know you drew this well," she said. Smiling, I snatched it from her hands. She looked surprised, then hurt. Like I was the bad guy. She left the room without a word. Later that night, I got scolded. "You have to make her feel safe," my mom said. "She's been through trauma," that word again. Trauma, as if it excused everything. By the time I was 12, I was invisible. Naomi had slowly inserted herself into every part of my life. Every school play I wanted to audition for, she auditioned too. Every club I joined, she joined the next week. I got used to the way people lit up when she walked into a room, then dimmed slightly when they saw me. Even teachers called us the sisters, but not in a cute way, more like, "Oh, the pretty one and the other one." One day in 7th grade, our history teacher paired us for a project. I wanted to work with anyone but her, but it was assigned. I did all the research, all the writing. Naomi showed up to class, smiled, and delivered the presentation with perfect timing and confidence. The teacher gave her the praise. "Naomi, you're such a natural speaker." She didn't correct him. She just nodded and thanked him. That night, I confronted her. I asked her why she couldn't just leave some things alone. She looked at me for a long time and said, "I thought we were in this together." That was the moment I started to really hate her. It wasn't one big thing that made me snap. It was the 1,000 little things, like how she started wearing my perfume without asking, or how she convinced our parents to redecorate the room, neutral tones. More mature. I lost my purple walls and glow-in-the-dark stars overnight. Or the time she told a story at dinner that was mine, a memory I had shared with my dad when I was 5, and she told it like it happened to her. My dad laughed and nodded like he remembered it that way. That's when I started writing things down, keeping track, notebooks filled with dates, details, things she did, things she said. I didn't even know what I was planning. I just knew I needed proof that I wasn't crazy. Then came the birthday, my 14th birthday. I'd asked for a sleepover with 3 friends. I'd made invitations. Mom said yes. Naomi, of course, was included. But 2 days before the party, Mom sat me down. Said Naomi had a panic attack and she didn't think it was a good time for a party. "Maybe next weekend," she said. "She's been having nightmares again." So we canceled. I spent the night in my room alone. The next morning, Naomi was wearing a new sweater, pink, with a bow, my mom said. We got it for her to cheer her up. No one even said happy birthday. Around that time, I started spending more time at the library, or just walking, anywhere but home. The tension had built so quietly over the years that I didn't realize how much I was suffocating until I had space. One evening, I came home and found Naomi crying in the kitchen. She told my mom I'd been cold to her lately, that I wouldn't talk to her. My mom asked me what was wrong. I said I was just tired. My mom didn't look convinced. That night, Naomi slipped a note under my door. It said, "You think they'll believe you over me?" I kept that note. I still have it. By the time we were both in high school, Naomi had transformed again. Gone was the shy girl. Now she was confident, popular, and somehow always in the center of everything. She got picked for student council. I didn't. She won an essay contest. I came in second. She got a part-time job at the bakery I'd been eyeing for months. She didn't even like baking. She just wanted it. Then there was the boy, his name was Caleb. We met at a summer program. He was funny, kind, awkward in the best way. We talked about music, books, weird conspiracy theories. He said I was the first person who really got him. I believed him. We started texting every day. Naomi noticed. One afternoon, I caught her scrolling through my phone. She laughed it off, just checking the time. A week later, she asked to come with me when Caleb and I were supposed to meet at the bookstore. I said no. She showed up anyway. Smiled that same smile, made jokes, tilted her head. Within days, he stopped texting back. When I finally asked him what happened, he just said, "I think your sister's really cool." I went home and screamed into a pillow until I couldn't breathe. That was when I started pulling away, really pulling away. I avoided dinner. I made up excuses to be out. Naomi noticed. She always noticed. She started leaving notes again. "What's wrong? Are you okay? Talk to me." But it wasn't concern. It was control. I didn't answer. I just collected them, like evidence, like proof, but the final straw didn't come until senior year. It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic. It was quiet, subtle, almost forgettable. I got a call from a college I'd applied to. Early acceptance. I was stunned. My parents weren't home, Naomi was. She hugged me, said she was proud. That night, I heard her talking to my mom in the hallway. She said she was worried about me, that I was acting out, that she found pills in my room. She didn't. That she thought I might be overwhelmed. I listened from behind the door. My mom's voice dropped low. "We'll talk to her." They never mentioned the acceptance letter, never brought it up. I waited. Days passed, then weeks. I finally asked. My mom looked confused. "You never said anything." That's when I checked the trash bin. My acceptance letter was there, torn in half. Naomi walked in while I was holding it. She didn't even flinch, just said, "That school wasn't right for you anyway." And that's when I knew she didn't want to be like me. She wanted to replace me. I didn't confront her. I didn't tell my parents. I just started preparing to leave, quietly, carefully. I got into another school, one I never told anyone about. I saved every cent, packed slowly. And the day I left, no goodbye, no note. I walked past her room and paused. She was sitting at her desk painting her nails. She looked up, smiled, and said, "Don't forget to write." I never did. But sometimes I still wonder what would have happened if she never came. What I would have been, who I might have become. And deep down, I think she wonders too. College was the reset I didn't know I needed. No one there knew Naomi. No one compared us, confused our names, or told me how lucky I was to have a sister like her. I didn't have to share my space, my thoughts, or watch someone smile while taking everything that was supposed to be mine. I could just exist, for the first time in years. I felt real. I picked a small liberal arts school a few states away, not the most prestigious, but quiet, remote, and most importantly, far. I majored in psychology, maybe because I wanted to understand how someone like Naomi could exist, or maybe because I needed to understand how I'd let it all happen. Either way, I poured myself into the work, made a few friends, laughed for real again. I didn't talk about my family much. When people asked if I had siblings, I said no. But healing isn't linear, and sometimes it takes just one flicker of a memory to set everything burning again. It started during my second year. One of my professors asked us to write about formative relationships, people who shaped who we are, for better or worse. I sat at my desk for hours staring at a blank page. I didn't want to give Naomi that power, but I also couldn't think of anyone else who'd warped my world so completely. So I wrote 15 pages. I didn't use her real name. I changed just enough details, but the pain was raw, and my professor knew it. She handed it back with a note, "You should think about publishing this." I didn't, but I did save the file on a hard drive. It was around that time I started therapy. At first I said it was about stress, sleep issues, general adjustment. But by the third session, Naomi's name came up. Or rather, the version of her I could talk about without choking on the word sister. I told my therapist about the copying, the gaslighting, the way my parents seemed blind to it. She nodded a lot, took notes, said things like that sounds incredibly invalidating. But it wasn't validation I wanted. I wanted an answer to the question I'd never stopped asking. Why me? Why did she choose me to mirror, to replace? Why did no one stop her? A year passed, then another. I graduated. Got a job offer back in state. Not close enough to my hometown to bump into anyone by accident, but close enough for guilt to sneak in through cracks I didn't know were still there. My mom started texting more. Little things, photos of the garden, updates on neighbors, no mention of Naomi. Then one day a message: Naomi got into grad school, we're so proud. I didn't respond, but it sat there, unread, mocking me. Then came the wedding, not hers, mine. His name was Eric. We met through work. He was calm in the way I wasn't, steady in ways I never trusted before. He never asked too many questions about my past, but he listened when I spoke, really listened. For once I wasn't performing, I wasn't shrinking to make someone else comfortable. I was just me. And for a while that felt safe. We got engaged after 2 years, small ceremony, out-of-town vineyard, no extended family, no drama. That was the plan, but my mother begged. Just let her come, she said over the phone. It would mean a lot. I stayed silent for so long she thought the call had dropped. Then I said no speeches, no spotlight. She sits, she smiles, she leaves. My mom agreed. Naomi was invited. She arrived late, of course. Walked in wearing white, not cream. Not ivory, but white. Everyone noticed. She smiled, kissed my mom's cheek, hugged my dad, sat like she belonged. My hands were shaking so badly I nearly dropped my bouquet. But I didn't say anything. I was determined to not let her ruin this too. The ceremony went smoothly, mostly. During the reception she approached me, alone, held a glass of champagne and said, "You look nice, different." I just stared at her. She tilted her head. "So you're really doing it, starting over." I nodded. She stepped closer. "Just be careful. Some people don't like being replaced." Then she smiled, that same smile, and walked away. I didn't see her again that night. But I didn't sleep either. Eric noticed the shift. He asked about her, gently. I told him bits, enough to paint the picture, but not enough to explain the rot underneath. How do you explain a sister who isn't yours, a family that turned blind, a life rewritten in someone else's handwriting? You don't, you just keep going. Months later, we moved into a new place. Fresh paint, bare walls, space to breathe. One afternoon, while unpacking, I opened a box I didn't recognize. Inside was a stack of old notebooks. Mine from high school, my evidence. I didn't remember bringing them. I flipped through the pages, scribbled notes, dates, impressions, little details I'd buried. At the bottom was something new. A small envelope, no return address, just my name written in her handwriting. Inside was a photo, me and Naomi, sitting on the porch. I'm maybe 10. She's behind me, arms around my shoulders, smiling. But my face, my expression is tight, uncomfortable. And in the corner of the photo, barely visible, is a reflection in the window behind us. A figure watching. I stared at that photo for hours. I asked Eric if he'd packed those boxes. He hadn't. I called my mom. She had no idea. I called the storage unit we used during the move. No record of that box. That night, I dreamed of her. Not Naomi now, but Naomi then, standing at the foot of my childhood bed, repeating my words back to me in my voice, over and over. When I woke up, the photo was gone. I never found it again. But sometimes, late at night, when the house is quiet and I can't sleep, I think about that reflection, about who else might have been watching, and why she wanted me to see it. Because even after all these years, even after everything, I still don't think she came alone. I told myself I was done looking back, that it didn't matter anymore. She was a memory, warped, twisted, but contained. That photo, that dream, that old ache in my chest, all just echoes. But if that were true, I wouldn't have started checking my locks twice, wouldn't have started walking faster past mirrored windows at night, wouldn't have started hesitating every time an unknown number lit up my phone. Eric noticed the change. He asked again. This time I told him more, not everything, but more than I ever had. He listened like always, but when I finished, he just said, "You ever wonder what her version of the story sounds like?" And I didn't answer, because I had. More times than I could count. It was a passing comment from a coworker that finally pushed me off the edge. We were at lunch. I'd mentioned something about growing up with an adopted sister, and she blinked, surprised. "That's funny," she said. "You never talk about her. You'd think you were an only child." I laughed, played it off, but it clung to me the rest of the day, that word. Only, like I'd dreamed it all. Like none of it ever happened. So I started searching, not obsessively at first. Just a few old yearbooks, alumni pages, public records. I wasn't expecting much, but Naomi had never been one to hide, not really. She liked the spotlight, and sure enough, there she was. Grad school photos, panel speaker bios, a LinkedIn profile polished and perfect. A few years younger than me, degree in counseling. Of all things, she was working at a private practice in the city. Smiling in every photo. Testimonials that called her empathetic, warm, intuitive. I stared at that word, intuitive, for almost a full minute. Then I booked an appointment not under my name. I used an alias, different email, different phone. I knew it was reckless, knew it was a terrible idea. But I needed to see her in a room where I had the power. Even just once, the office was in a gentrified corner of downtown, glass walls, tasteful art. I almost turned around 3 times. But I walked in, gave the name, waited. And then she appeared. She didn't recognize me at first. Why would she? Different hair, older, but I recognized her, same posture, same eyes. She led me into the room, sat across from me, smiled gently. "So what brings you in today?" I didn't speak at first, just looked around, memorized every detail, the framed degrees, the essential oil diffuser, the notebook in her lap. She waited, patient, professional. Then I said, "Do you remember the first time you took something from me?" Her hand froze. Just for a second, barely noticeable, but I saw it. The smile twitched, she blinked. "I'm sorry," I leaned forward. "You don't know who I am," she stared, and then something shifted. Not panic, not shock, just calculation, like a camera lens refocusing. And then she said, "You shouldn't be here." "No," I said, standing. "You shouldn't be doing this." As I left, I felt her eyes follow me the whole way down the hallway. She didn't call after me. She didn't try to stop me. She didn't have to. That night, an email came in from a burner address. No subject, no text, just an attachment, a scan of one of my old diary pages. The one where I wrote, in shaky, furious letters, "She's trying to erase me." The file disappeared before I could save it, just blinked out. Gone, I told Eric. He thought I was being paranoid, said maybe I'd opened something sketchy, maybe it was a virus, but I knew that handwriting. It was mine, the page was mine, and the only other person who'd ever had access to that notebook was her. After that, things started happening. Small things. At first, a neighbor mentioned someone asking about me, said it was a college friend. No name, just a girl with brown eyes and a soft voice. My car alarm would go off randomly at night. Emails would get marked as read before I opened them. I changed passwords, bought cameras, slept with my phone under my pillow. I told myself it was coincidence. Told myself she wasn't that kind of person, but then again, what kind of person was she? Because there's something about Naomi no one ever really understood. Not my parents, not our teachers. Not the therapists who said she was adjusting well. She didn't lie, not exactly. She just told her version so convincingly that everyone forgot there could be another one. She didn't scream, she didn't threaten, she just smiled, stepped into your skin, and then made you feel crazy for noticing. The last straw came 6 months later. I came home from work. Door was locked, nothing was out of place. But something felt off. I walked through the apartment slowly. Everything in its spot, except for the photo, that photo, the one I'd lost. It was back, sitting on the kitchen table. Same fold in the corner, same faint crease across my face, only this time there was something written on the back. 4 words, all in my handwriting. "She's not done yet." I didn't sleep that night. I didn't go to work the next day. Didn't tell Eric. I just sat in the living room with the lights on, waiting. For what? I didn't know. But I kept thinking about that reflection in the photo, the shadow, the watcher. The feeling that Naomi hadn't just replaced me. She'd brought something with her, something that still hadn't left. And sometimes I wonder if that something ever really belonged to her either. I moved out 3 weeks later. Told Eric we needed space, that I needed to breathe. It wasn't a lie, I was suffocating, just not from him. He didn't press. Packed a bag and left me the keys. Said, "Call when you're ready." I told him I would. I haven't yet. I rented a studio apartment downtown. No frills, 1 window, 1 lock. But it was mine. No echoes of footsteps in the hall, no shared memories bleeding through the walls. I kept my phone off most of the time, deleted social media, used cash. I made myself small, quiet, unnoticeable. The way Naomi always pretended to be, it was ironic. But it was the only way I could think to feel safe again. Except I wasn't safe, not really. The mail started coming. No return address, just my name. No threats, no notes, just things. An old pair of earrings I lost in high school, a dried flower from a corsage I'd worn junior prom, a sketch I tore out of my notebook and threw away in the 10th grade. All things I forgot, all things only Naomi would have kept. She wasn't just trying to haunt me. She was reminding me, I see you. I still have pieces of you. I started going through old files, digging deeper into her past. I requested adoption records, most were sealed, but some details leaked through. She'd been through 3 foster homes before she was placed with us. One of them had filed a complaint. Vague language, manipulative behavior, disruption of household stability, inappropriate attachment strategies. But no action was ever taken. The file closed. She moved on. She always moved on. I tried calling my mom, not to warn her, just to hear her voice, maybe to ask what she knew, really knew. But when she answered, her voice was cold. "It's late." She said, "Everything okay?" I froze. Couldn't speak. Then I heard Naomi in the background, laughing, close, like she was right next to the phone. I hung up. Days passed. I stopped sleeping. Ate only when the hunger pains got sharp enough to force me. My eyes started twitching, my hands shook. I couldn't tell if I was paranoid or finally seeing things clearly. Then I got a call from a number I didn't recognize. I answered without thinking. Hello? The voice was soft, familiar, her voice. I'm worried about you, she said. I didn't respond, she continued. You shouldn't be alone right now. It's not good for you. You isolate, you spiral, you always have. You remember senior year, don't you? The way you pulled away. That wasn't healthy, I whispered. You're not my therapist. A pause, then she said, but I am trained. I hung up again, turned my phone off, smashed the SIM card. The next morning, there was a note slipped under my door. You're not well. Let me help. No name, no signature. But I knew the handwriting. She wasn't hiding anymore. She was treating me. That was when I started recording everything. Every creak in the floor, every shadow outside the window. I filled notebooks again, like I had when we were kids, only now it wasn't about her taking my spot in the school play. Now it was about survival, proof, something to show someone, anyone, if I disappeared. I set up cameras, hidden ones bought in cash, installed them myself. I told myself it was for safety. But part of me wanted something else, evidence, something undeniable, and I got it. 3 nights later, at 3:12 a.m., the hallway light flicked on, no motion outside, no noise, just the light. I checked the feed, nothing, but when I scrubbed frame by frame, second by second, there it was, a shadow, slim, just for a flicker near the mail slot. A pale hand, a small envelope. I retrieved it. Same handwriting, same scent, lavender like her pillow used to smell, inside a photo, me. Sleeping. Taken from outside the window. I called the police. They came, took my statement, looked at the footage, said it was unclear, said there was no sign of forced entry, asked if I'd recently experienced stress or sleep issues. I laughed, loud, scared them off, I think. They left with promises to patrol the area. They wouldn't help, not unless she stabbed me in broad daylight with a signed confession. So I changed strategy. I tracked down someone from her past, one of her old foster homes. Took weeks, but I found a woman named Marla who remembered her. We spoke on the phone. Her voice was brittle, like leaves underfoot. I've been waiting for someone to ask, she said. I asked what she meant. She lived with us when she was 8, Marla said. It started small. Our son's toys would go missing. Our cat disappeared. Then our youngest started having nightmares. He said she stood at the foot of his bed, whispering his name. I asked if she reported anything. They told us we were exaggerating, that we were too strict, too suspicious. She paused. But I know what I saw. I know what she did. I asked what that was. Marla didn't answer. Then she said, she keeps something from everyone. Something small, something important. It's not about the thing. It's about owning it. I thanked her, hung up. The next day I found one of my baby teeth, one I lost when I was 7, sitting on my desk in a tiny glass vial. Naomi hadn't just kept pieces of me. She'd kept me before I even knew who I was. I don't know what she's building, or why, but I know she's not done. And I know she's still watching, because last night, I caught my own reflection in the bathroom mirror. Just a flicker, and for a split second, it wasn't me. I stopped using mirrors after that. Covered everyone in the apartment with sheets, tape, or paint. Even the stainless steel toaster went into the dumpster. It wasn't about superstition. It was control. I couldn't trust what I saw anymore. And when you can't trust your own reflection, you start questioning everything else too. The therapist I finally agreed to see, one who didn't know Naomi, told me I was experiencing residual trauma responses. She said the feeling of being watched, the paranoia, the disassociation, it all tracked. I nodded, took the meds, played the game, but inside I kept thinking, what if I'm not wrong? What if this isn't trauma? What if it's just memory finally catching up to reality? Because Naomi didn't need to break into my apartment to undo me. She was in my head long before that. I tried to rebuild normal. I really did, started painting again. Small, abstract canvases. Therapy recommended productive creative outlets, but every time I picked up a brush, my hand would shake. The images that came out weren't mine, not really. They were hers. Her face, her smile, her handwriting. One canvas was just layers of white paint. Another was black smudges around an empty center. When I brought one to therapy, the woman just stared. "What do you see?" she asked. I said absence. She nodded slowly and didn't speak for the rest of the session. 3 weeks passed without incident. I let my guard down, even slept through the night. Thought maybe, just maybe, I'd finally become boring enough for Naomi to lose interest. Then I got the call, blocked number. I shouldn't have answered, but I did. No voice. Just audio. A recording. It was me as a child. Laughing, then Naomi, do it again, say it again, and then me. She's not real, click, that audio shouldn't exist. I don't remember saying those words. I don't remember being recorded. But the voice was mine, my childhood lisp, my laugh, and what did I mean, she's not real? I called Eric. I hadn't spoken to him in almost 2 months. He picked up on the first ring. Are you okay? I wasn't. But I said, can we meet? He drove 3 hours that night. We sat in his car in the parking lot of a diner. I told him everything, from the beginning, from Naomi copying my clothes to the vial with my baby tooth. He didn't interrupt, just listened. When I finished, I asked, do you believe me? He was quiet for a long time, then said, I believe you believe it. That was worse than a no. He offered to drive me to a hospital, said we could just talk to someone, just rule some things out. I told him I needed air, stepped out of the car, walked to the back of the lot, and when I turned around, he was on the phone. I don't know who he was calling, but I didn't wait to find out. I disappeared again. Rented a room under a fake name. Cash only. Cheap place with flickering lights and water-stained ceilings, but at least no one knew me there. At least Naomi couldn't find me, or so I thought. 2 nights in, I woke to knocking, not at the door, at the window, 2nd floor. I didn't move, just stared. The knocking stopped. In the morning, the receptionist told me no one had come in or out all night. But on my pillow was a Polaroid, new, fresh me, sleeping, mouth slightly open on the back. Scrawled in marker, who do you think you were before me? I threw up in the bathroom sink. I left that place within the hour, took the next bus to anywhere, changed my hair, burned the Polaroid in a motel trash can. I tried to call my mom again, no answer. Tried my dad, disconnected. Tried Mia, my old best friend. She picked up, sounded shocked. Are you okay? Your sister said you were in treatment. I asked, did she give you a photo of me? She paused. Yeah, in college. One of us at a sleepover. You were asleep. I asked if she still had it. No, it creeped me out. I threw it away, of course she did. Everyone throws the evidence away, that's why Naomi always wins. But something shifted after that. I realized she didn't just want to replace me, she wanted to erase me, piece by piece, from the memories of everyone I ever mattered to. Until I was just a name they heard once in a story Naomi told better. That was the goal. That had always been the goal, and the scariest part, she was good at it. By the time I returned to my old town, unannounced, unnoticed, I'd already been scrubbed out. My old teachers didn't remember me. My neighbor thought I moved away after 3rd grade. Even the librarian, who'd once let me stay after hours to draw in the margins of outdated books, blinked at me like I was a stranger. But Naomi was still there, living in the house I grew up in, same window, same porch swing, only now the porch had a new plaque, the Dawson Sisters, S. 1998, that's the year we adopted her. I wasn't even included in the name. I left town again that night, drove for hours until the sun came up, and for the first time in years, I started wondering, what if I really am the copy? What if I was always the one out of place? What if Naomi didn't replace me, but revealed me for what I really was? And that thought, that was the first one that ever truly scared me. I stopped trying to prove anything after that. Not to Eric, not to the police, not even to myself. Because what was there left to prove? Naomi had already done it. She'd hollowed me out until even I wasn't sure who I was anymore. And that's the thing people don't understand about obsession. It's not always loud. Sometimes it's soft, slow, precise. She didn't destroy me in one act. She just took one thing at a time until nothing felt mine anymore. I found a room above a used bookstore in a nowhere town, paid in cash. Didn't use my real name. The owner didn't ask questions, just handed me a key and said rent was due on the 1st. I didn't unpack much. I slept on a cot, ate what I could buy in tins. I worked at night, transcribing audio for a law firm that didn't care where I was or what name I used. As long as I met the deadlines, it was peaceful for a while. Then came the envelope plain tucked under my door one morning, inside another photo. Not of me. Not of her, of us, a family photo I didn't remember taking, standing in front of the Christmas tree, my parents, me, Naomi, but in this photo I wasn't smiling, I wasn't even looking at the camera. And someone with clean, careful handwriting, had circled Naomi's face in red ink and written just 3 words above it. Which one's real? I burned that one too, but I couldn't unsee it. I started thinking again about the way people described Naomi over the years. Warm, intuitive, a born caretaker. And how those same people always described me, intense, anxious, difficult to read. I started to wonder if I was hard to love, if maybe they had seen something I didn't. Maybe that's why Naomi fit so easily into the life I always had to fight for. Maybe it wasn't theft. Maybe it was evolution, but then I remembered something. A teacher back in 5th grade, Mr. Kelman, he once pulled me aside after class and said, "You used to be the brightest girl in the room." What happened? And I'd said nothing, because Naomi had joined our class 2 months earlier. And he never asked that question again. I started tracing backwards, not just my memories, but other people's. I contacted old classmates, old friends, distant cousins. Told them I was doing a personal project. Wanted to gather stories from our childhood. Most were happy to help. But the stories they told, they didn't line up. Not with what I remembered. Not with what really happened. Mia told me Naomi used to braid my hair every morning. Said it was her way of helping me feel pretty. That never happened. I never let anyone touch my hair. Naomi never even tried. Another classmate said I cried when Naomi got accepted into student council and I didn't. That Naomi held me after. Told me I was still special. That wasn't true either. I didn't cry. I got detention that day for refusing to vote. The pattern was clear. Somehow my memories had been replaced, not in my mind, but in theirs. She hadn't just rewritten my life, she'd re-edited the people in it. That's when I found the email, old inbox. One I hadn't touched in years. It was from Naomi, dated 4 years earlier, subject, do you remember? The body of the message was blank, but the attachment was a Word doc. No metadata, no track changes, it was a transcript of a therapy session, mine, word for word. Every sentence I'd said in my second year of college, my breakdown, my crying, my confusion. I'd never recorded it, but she had it, which meant she'd been listening, which meant she was in the room, or had someone there, or had a way. I didn't sleep for 3 days, didn't eat for 2. By the 4th night, I was back to scrubbing old files, not hers. Mine, looking for leaks, weak points. People I'd let in who might have been hers first. Former roommates, professors, even therapists. I sent encrypted emails to a digital forensics specialist I found through a burner forum, paid him to audit everything I'd ever uploaded, every cloud account, every forgotten Dropbox folder. He called me after 48 hours, sounded spooked, said, "You sure you want to hear this?" I said yes. He said, "Your most secure folder, the one with double authentication, someone accessed it. 2 years ago, from a location tied to a mental health institute in Vermont." I said, "I've never been to Vermont." He paused, then said, "Well, Naomi has." He sent me the IP logs. I didn't understand most of them, but the timestamps matched perfectly with the weeks I'd been applying for a clinical internship. Weeks I'd sent samples, letters, personal reflections. She had everything, every version of me, better yet, she had the unedited versions, while all I had left were fragments, and that's when it clicked. Naomi didn't just want to become me, she wanted to improve me. Cut away the parts that didn't work. Keep the charm. Add stability. Polish the fear into empathy. Sculpt a better version of the girl she was assigned to imitate. And she had. Everyone loved her. Even when I was the one who got there first. I closed my laptop. Looked in the mirror, the one mirror I hadn't covered yet, tucked in the closet. I stared hard, and I said aloud, "What if you were never the original?" No one answered. But somewhere deep inside, I wasn't sure if I was asking myself, or waiting for Naomi to answer for me. I stayed off-grid for a while after that, deleted every account, burned every notebook, got a job washing dishes in a bar off the interstate where no one asked where I came from or what I'd studied. The guy who paid me called me red, probably because I dyed my hair that color in a gas station bathroom the night I arrived. I didn't correct him. It felt safer that way. I told myself this was just temporary, that one day I'd reclaim what was mine. But the truth is, I stopped knowing what was mine, my memories, my handwriting, my voice, my story. They all had fingerprints on them now, and every time I tried to pull them back, all I could see was hers. I spent hours thinking about things I hadn't in years, like how my mom stopped calling me baby girl around the time Naomi moved in, how my dad missed my middle school play but drove 3 hours to watch Naomi sing backup in a church concert, how my name faded from the Christmas stockings, from the family calendar. From photos, I even started wondering, and this is the part one haven't told anyone, I started wondering if there were ever photos of just me. Before her, I checked. I went back through albums I had hidden online, childhood birthdays, beach trips, first day of school. She was always there, always. Even in memories where I swear she shouldn't have been. One photo in particular broke me. I'm maybe 6, sitting on the grass with a scraped knee. My dad's tying my shoe. My mom's in the background, holding a camera. That much I remembered clearly. But in the photo, the real photo I found tucked in the back of an old folder, Naomi's sitting next to me smiling, but we didn't adopt her until I was 9, right? Right? I tried calling my mom one last time. I needed to ask. Not to accuse, just to know, but her number had been changed. I tried my dad, same, my aunt voicemail. One by one I was cut off. Or maybe I'd been gone so long. They didn't even recognize the number. Or maybe they did, and that's why they didn't answer. I booked a bus to my hometown, didn't tell anyone, didn't plan to talk to anyone. I just wanted to see the house, stand outside it, remind myself that I'd existed there, that it was real. It was late when I arrived. The street was quiet, warm lights in the windows, that same porch swing. She was sitting on it, Naomi hair darker than I remembered. A mug in her hands, calm still. She didn't see me. And I didn't move. I watched her for maybe 20 minutes. She laughed once, soft, like someone inside had told a joke. Then she got up, stepped inside, and the door shut behind her. And for the first time in a long time, I realized something. She looked happy, not victorious, not smug, just settled, at peace, and I couldn't remember the last time I felt that way. I turned around, walked back to the bus station, bought a one-way ticket west, somewhere with no roots, no reflections, no family trees to unravel. And here's the thing no one likes to admit. Sometimes it's not about justice, or revenge, or being right. Sometimes it's about surrender, about choosing to stop fighting for a version of the past that no longer wants you. I don't know who Naomi really is. I don't know what parts of me she stole, and what parts one gave away trying to make sense of her. I don't know if she even remembers the girl I used to be, but I remember. That's enough. And if I ever forget, well, maybe that's peace too. So yeah, I guess I do wish she never came, but wishing doesn't change anything. She's here, and maybe that's the part no one warns you about with adoption or family or identity, that sometimes the person you fear most isn't a stranger. Anyway, that's my story. Do with it what you want.